You're live.
Am I live?
You're live.
I'm live. How we doing? How are we doing? Eagles. Let's go Eagles. NFC East champions. Listen, it's not just personal, it's also business. BetMGM made me make a giant splash bet, giant by my standards, at the beginning of the season. And I said, oh, do I have to? And they said, yeah, you do. And I said, I think I'll take the Eagles to win the East. And some people said, good luck with that. How do you like me now? Now that I'm on my way. I got some walking around money walking into the playoffs, don't I? And nice thing is, just a little housekeeping items here as we get off the ground. 2 huge Commies fans tonight. Baker Mayfield, right? Because if the Commanders win this game, then the Bucs control their own destiny next week against the Saints, who look pretty damn hapless. And also Matthew Stafford and the Rams, because if the Commanders win tonight, they win the West, rendering next week's game with Seattle completely useless to the football world, giving the Rams an extra week of rest. And a big domino would fall that way. If you subscribe to like the NFL it's a bunch of conspiracy theory shit. I don't blame you, because when I'm on the losing end of a bet, I think that the game's fixed, but it's not. I can tell you from experience. But like, if you believe that, you probably figure the NFL wants Atlanta to win this game, because what would be best for the NFL would be to have an NFC West championship game week 18. Now, Jaden Daniels can take the momentum from last week and make all that go away. That doesn't even have to happen. And I need my Bucs ticket to cash. Anybody else had the Bucs win in the South this year? Okay. I had the Seahawks win in the West for less than I had the Bucs. I just need the Bucs to win the damn South. So with that having been said, let's talk about things in order. Eagles fans, you're gonna have to wait a minute. I will talk about the Birds winning the NFC East. But I think Vikings fans deserve to be showered with compliments and praise. And yeah, your team's fucking awesome. Like, I've never thought they were frauds this year. This was a game that I thought Green Bay would play better, and I thought Green Bay could win this game, and they didn't. And it kind of followed the game script of the first game, just in a different way, where it was like, too little, too late for Green Bay. I'll say this to Green Bay fans. I think you got a good football team. I think there's good players on that team. I like the coach a lot. I don't think it's a team that, you're necessarily excited to see come to Philly if Philly is the 2 seed and they end up going to Philly, or, I don't take your pick if you're the Birds. Would you rather see the Packers at home or the Bucs? I don't know. There's no real good answer. There's 2 tough draws. I say all that, and I'll say this. The Packers have not won a big game all year. And I think that's the thing that's disappointing for a team that I thought last year, when Jordan Love went to, when Kansas City came to Green Bay, and that was during a Kansas City lull last year, but I thought that was such a big boy win for them. I thought they had graduated past the ability to win a big game, and right now it just doesn't look like they're ready to win that game. They've had multiple opportunities, and yeah, they played teams close this year in those spots. And, you could certainly say, hey, in Detroit's current form, you feel like maybe they could beat Detroit. I think if you're a Green Bay fan, you're saying, oh, well, if we play like we play in the second half of these games against Minnesota, or, hey, that was a long time ago in Brazil when we lost the Eagles, but you just haven't won the big game. And I love that team, but you haven't won the big game. And in this game, it's like a comedy of errors in the first half. It's like you're playing on the road against one of the best teams in the league, and your response is to come out the first drive. You got a good drive going. You fumble the football. You stall in the red zone. You don't go on 4th and 3 in the red zone. Then you go on 4th and 2 in the field at 7-3 instead of taking a field goal, which would have mattered at the end of the game, right? Revisionist history, right? But it would have mattered mathematically. You throw an in cut to who should be your best receiver, he drops the ball. You know, you got a 3rd and 1 at some point. You pick it up, you get an illegal formation, it's 3rd and 6. And then you take a shot to Bo Melton in double coverage. Sometimes this team confounds me. You know, you gift Minnesota 3 points before the half, and which I could argue that Cooper wasn't offsides. That was a bizarre penalty, but it certainly isn't a thing where I'm saying, hey, they would have won the game had they kicked that field goal. Again, I know that things change when the score changes, so this is revisionist history, but they gifted them a field goal that they got 2 tries at. You know, and that bails KOC out, who's one of the best coaches in the league. He rarely has moments like the one he had before the half where he lets the clock run off. They just don't take advantage of the big moments. You know, and they come out of the half, they get 12 men in the huddle. It was a lot of work to get in the end zone. It took a pick in the second half that they got stripped on. Like, they couldn't do anything right. Okay. They could get Jair back. That matchup could look different, sure. But Minnesota's the better team right now. And, you know, when they take Jaden Reed away, when I'm watching, and this is why I love the end zone, love sideline tape when you get to watch the actual all 22, is I want to see what B Flow is doing back there. What kind of witchcraft, what kind of fucking sorcery was he on? What kind of Wicca was going down in the deep to intermediate levels of the field? Maybe the Christian Watson injury loomed larger than we thought. Like, if they can't stretch the field with his speed the same way, you know, Love's not going to see it. I think it's more of a product of Brian Flores and a masterclass by this pass rush, by the defensive play caller. You know, and offensively for Minnesota, Sam Darnold is way past, hey, is this guy legit or not? He's legit right now. Okay, like, we can only judge him in his current context, and that current context is very good. You got one of the best play callers in the league. You got Justin Jefferson. You have Jordan Addison. You have Hawkinson. You have Aaron Jones, who they were totally willing to give the ball to a bunch early in the game when it looked like Green Bay's whole mindset was, let's not give up the big one. They have so many weapons, but this guy's made a lot of really good throws, and he made them late in the down today. The longer the down went on, he made good decisions. Now, late in the game, he did not make good decisions, but these were spots where he had leads, right? The pick, bad decision. There was another ball that he kind of airmailed right through, I forget whose hands it was, but he could have thrown 2 picks late in the game. It was Stokes. Nixon's looking at him like, holy shit, I would have caught that. But the point is, Sam Darnold's stretch, we've seen enough. And for the people that are just hating on the guy, or, you know, can't get the confirmation bias of, well, he was a bust, out of your head, that ain't who he is. It's time to treat him fairly. You know, I understand he's got good surroundings around him, but so do most elite quarterbacks in the league. You know, nobody's saying he's Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but you know, this is the reality of playing in the NFL. Players' performances are variable based on the situations they're in. This dude has done nothing but seize the opportunity. And so I know Vikings fans are after a lot of respect. We respect you here at this podcast. I would say right now it's the last team I'd want to play in the NFC. And that includes the Eagles, because I don't know what's going on at quarterback. If Jalen comes back and he's healthy and he looks good in the whole thing, but if you have to go to Minnesota, which I think there's a good chance that happens, this isn't me overreacting to this game, and I got a lot of respect for Detroit and the Lions, but the injuries have piled up. They just made a team that couldn't rush the passer today. Big win for Minnesota's offensive line. We thought the interior might have trouble with those guys up front. Overall, Darnold had time, and the later in the down you play the Minnesota Vikings, the more you're sure. And I'm staring at that fucking TV view, and I'm saying 3, 4, the zones are wide open. You know, they find voids and zones at the intermediate and deep levels of the field more than anybody. And they have Justin Jefferson, who draws coverage away from people more than anybody in the league. You know, there were 2 touchdowns today where, you know, you might say, hey, they bottled Jefferson up in the first half. No, they didn't, because when he's in the area, people's eyes are bad. And that's the value of having the best receiver on the planet. but they just made a team that couldn't rush Sam Darnold look like that, right? And so how do you think they make Detroit look next week? I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk, and I know they got to go on the road to do that, but this is going to be a game where I feel like Minnesota's coming in with a lot of momentum, and they're hunting that 1 seed, and they can get it. They can get it. We'll see if, another thing is Detroit plays San Francisco tomorrow night, short week, right? San Francisco is going to try to shorten that ball game. San Francisco is going to try to pound the ball. They're going to try to play physical on a short week, right? Minnesota's been at home. They're going to take a short trip to Detroit next week with everything on the line. That game, the NFL gets what it wants. Battle for the number 1 seed and the NFC North. And I think right now, if you ask me which team's playing better, and, people be like, oh, you flip-flop this and that. You try doing this for fucking 18 weeks in a season. I'm not going to lie to you about how a team's playing. Minnesota is playing as good as anybody in the NFC right now. And this was the biggest test to me because they were dealing with a team that really wanted to prove they could win a big game going into the playoffs and wanted to get that taste out of their mouth from getting their asses kicked in the first game. And while Love didn't throw the picks, he just couldn't get going. And they shot themselves in the foot left and right. So this team, Minnesota, is as complete as any team in the NFL. Look at the way, and so well coached. They let the other teams make the mistakes. Look at the way they close this game out. And I'm not talking about on defense. Obviously, some garbage time from Jordan Love to cover all the teasers. Thank you very much. But, with the game on the line, up 2 points, a lot of pressure, you're backed up. This could easily be a game you lose. I turned to Nolan before the last set of downs. I said, there's no way they're losing this game. This is with the 2-minute warning, the whole thing. They come out P10, the first play of the possession, and you got somebody wide open in the flat, off play action. And then to have the confidence to drop back and throw it on second down after taking a loss on first down to Justin Jefferson, which I guess doesn't take that much confidence, but it takes a degree of confidence. I don't know if anybody else is catching a ball under pressure like that. You just knew when you saw who he's throwing the ball to, they're going to catch this ball. And then the call and the execution, the catch, that's not even a guy they're relying upon heavily, right? That's Akers. And for him to make the catch, take it off the carpet there, that's the difference between maybe losing that game and next week's not for anything, right? And so this team, top to bottom, I can't give them enough credit. Really. And Brian Flores is a fucking G, dude. I played for him. I love the guy. I hope he gets to be a head coach again in this league. His players love him. The players in Miami, they don't like anybody. They didn't like Vic Fangio. They don't like Brian Flores. Guess what? They both left, and they're both great. Okay? So, but just a tour de force by Minnesota. Wild story, man. Wild story. And Kwesi did a great job. I know every draft pick you're not going to like, but it seems like every big move they made this year has paid off. Jonathan Grenard, absolutely love his game. I'm a little bit partial to him. He does remind me of me when I was in my prime, which is a very old man thing to say, but I like the way he rushes, right? He's got a lot of counters. He rushes with power. He's twitchy. He plays hard. Van Ginkel, he's up in the double digits. I mean, Pace came back today, big deal, right? They've gotten quality snaps out of Camus, Grugier Hill, who I played with before. It's like they just Cashman coming in, Grenard coming in, Van Ginkel coming in, Stephon Gilmore, they snuck him in camp, right? We were visiting Minnesota, and they're all but starting the season with their 6.5 game fucking win total. And they're like, oh, we're bringing Stephon Gilmore in today. We're like, oh, cool. They really, not to mention nailing the quarterback and seeming to have drafted a quarterback that, makes the decision harder than it should be. Sam Darnold's your guy right now. And I don't know what I'd have to see in the playoffs for him not to be my guy. I really don't know. I got a fucking man crush on an entire organization. Call it what it is, man. Sorry, I thought it would be closer. They continue to impress. There no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And let's get to the birds real quick, shall we? The NFC East champions. Listen, I just very impressed with the way that team today responded. I thought this was going to be a rock fight. Now, 61-degree weather in Philly. I could tell by Sal Palantonio's shit-eating grin in pregame that the Eagles were going to roll. I should have rushed to just, bet the alt line or something, because the way Sal gave his pregame report, it was like he was talking to people on the field and they were like, we got their asses. And maybe it's the fact that they knew that even with Jalen Hurts down, they were always going to love their number 2 corner matchup against Dallas today. They were going to be able to run the football. They were going to turn the ball over. I mean, that to me is a huge deal. To get the turnovers they got today, CJ Gardner-Johnson, the guy who, when he exited the game last week, when he exited the game last week, that's when it really went wrong. And then he comes out first possession and makes a huge play. They were taking the football off guys all day. To have a defense, turnovers kind of come in bunches like sacks, like they really do. And when a team's in the middle of one of these turnover frenzies, you'd rather it be right now than like week 5 and then, dissipates. They're taking the ball off people. They had 5 last week. So for the defense to show up like this, great job. I thought this was just if you're an Eagles fan, it was like, hey, the Kelly Greens, the Sidney Brown handling fucking business in the tunnel. I love that. The AJ Brown, who's like a baby Megatron dude, like that one-handed catch, he didn't get both feet down. It's bully ball. And then they give him the ball again. And, for the Eagles, I'm watching Howie Roseman, who's up there texting on his cell phone like it's a fucking computer. But he's got to be loving what he's seeing, because Kenny Pickett played well, and he played well last week. And Tanner McKee looks like the type of guy that people are going to be talking about as long as he's on this roster. Tanner McKee, I kind of get it. I get the infatuation with the guy, man. But, AJ Brown tossing Tanner McKee's touchdown 40 rows into the stands, bro. He Bo Nixed it. It was like a 50-yard pass. Some Delco guy catches the ball, and it was just like, it was something out of a movie. It was like Dom had to come over. This guy's day changed. And of course, he's going to give the ball back. What do I want a Tanner McKee touchdown ball for? No offense. But you give it back to Dom, you're getting an A.J. Brown signed fucking jersey. Game worn. Bro, it's an incredible trade. You trade back in that situation every damn time, dude. And you get to do the little flex at A.J. Brown, like, I got you, bro. That was incredible. That was such a Philly scene. Saquon getting 2,000 yards, the timeout, the recognition. Listen, I don't want people to kill me over this. Inevitably, somebody's going to be upset I'm saying this, but fuck the record. I know the record is important. Like, I know it's important. It's important to Saquon. It's important to the group. It's important to the guys up front. Somebody's going to bold letter quote me, fuck the record. I'm not saying it like, hey, the record is nothing. The record's a big deal. But you know what I'm going to say next. Just be careful. Just be careful. And some people are going to call me a party pooper. But like the guy, stubs his toe in the second quarter next week, and it's like, what are we doing? So I just, be careful, guys. That would be my. He's got 100 yards to go. If he don't have 70 by the midway point of the first quarter, and it would be poetic to break the rushing record against his old team. I mean, be like out of a movie, and it's everything the Eagles organization loves, like the flash, the flare, like let's kick the door in. Be careful. This guy, he'll take you where you want to go, but you need him, right? So Saquon, can't say enough about that guy. Mitchell got beat a little bit early. I was a little bit surprised by that, but otherwise I really like what I saw. And, if to finish the quarterback conversation, as for like people playing next week, I do think it's important for Jalen to get some snaps. You cannot have this much time off. Like, he needs to get out there, get some snaps, shake the cobwebs loose, and he's got to look good. You know, if they go 3 and out 2 times in a row, I don't care if you said, hey, we're getting him 2 series. I would push it, and I would tell Jalen, I'd say, hey, fucking throw the ball around the yard. Let's get some 7-on-7 here. And say, hey, you know, the guys that are playing up front, we got to protect this guy while he's in, but throw the ball around and that's the problem. We get into this thing where we're trying to give Saquon the record. What's the most important thing? Him healthy and Jalen looking in sync going into playoffs. Because you do not want to yank him in the first quarter on a pitch count and have the guy looking like shit because he's rusty or because he just doesn't have his best day. I want to see him in sync. And if Saquon gets the record along the way, great. But pull that fucking Quadzilla out of the damn game. Get him on the sideline as soon as you can. And then, you know, the other thing is they got some tough matchups that might come to town, whether it's the Bucs, Green Bay. Like, I'm not sure who it's going to be, but, man, get ready. Playoffs are coming. This is wild. I don't want to forget anything on this game. Don't think I did. So sorting it out, like working backwards from Saturday, Chargers, very impressive in a spot where you could probably see them sleepwalking. I like an idiot gave out the Pats because I just figured like, hey, I've been burnt betting 4-point favorites who absolutely need it, right? Tampa, Seattle. But Harbaugh doing exactly to a T what he did in San Francisco, coaching a team to double-digit wins in a year where they're not expected to be there in his first year with the team. I mean, when he was in San Francisco, I was in division, and like I said, middling team. I mean, bad enough to fire the coach, Singletary, end up hiring this guy, and in a strike-shortened year without the time to get everybody on the same page, they reel off 12, 13 wins. And they were not expected to be there. And for the Chargers to do this year, I knew they'd be good, but I didn't know they'd be this good. And I don't know how good they are, right? Like, but I think I like them going to Kansas City in the second round better than I like, you know, Pittsburgh or Houston going to Kansas City in the second round, which is why, as a football fan, I would much rather see the Bengals beat the Steelers next week and the Chargers hold on to grab that 5 seed, because I think that could be a fun game at Arrowhead. The thing that impressed me about the Chargers is, you know, you think about a warm weather team, 1 o'clock, going east, maybe being tight, the whole thing. They weren't. They just threw the ball around the fucking yard. And he's throwing the ball to Lab McConkey and some guys. And no disrespect to the other guys, but if they're able to win a damn playoff game with this wide receiver core, look out. You know, the future is bright there with the way they've established the groundwork for the program. And so generally 2 spots up for grabs coming to the weekend. As of Saturday night, it was 1 spot after that Broncos loss, which we'll talk about in a minute. What we have here is an AFC Squid Game situation. 4 teams, 1 spot. Colts, Finns, Bengals, Broncos. Colts are out now. Found a way to lose to the Giants. And that's honestly, they deserve it. Like, if you can't beat the Giants with your season on the line, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. I don't care if Flacco's starting. I don't care if Richardson's starting. They continue to be one of the most, like, I don't know, middling teams. I just can't get my head around them. Now, in the ugliest game of the century, the Dolphins, I had one eye on that game. Under came in with flying colors. Just a hideous game. Dolphins find a way to survive. Give Tua a week. I'm sure he comes back week 18. Now, if you're a Bengals fan, you need to beat the damn Steelers. Bear with me here. The Broncos, obviously, for any of these Squid Game activities to go through, they got to lose to Carson Wentz and a bunch of backups, which I don't know, Reed, as a Broncos fan, you think is going to happen?
I'm nervous.
You're nervous. Okay. I wouldn't be as nervous. And honestly, the Dolphins could end up the team in the playoffs anyways. Yeah. You know, we've been talking about the Bengals again, and the Dolphins could find a way to win. The Dolphins, if they win this weekend, right, and they beat the Jets,
and the Broncos lose,
and the Broncos lose, they're going to leapfrog Cincy. So Cincy needs the Broncos to lose, as does everybody, but they also need the Dolphins to lose. So the Squid Game is down to 3 teams. And it's 3-team Squid Game. And I have no idea what's going to happen. No idea. If you're a Bengals fan, you got to root for Aaron Rodgers to beat the damn Dolphins. The guy today who pushed a guy out of bounds after an interception, and the slow-mo of him walking back to the bench with this smirk on his face was like, yeah, this guy's totally checked out. Literally, at the end of the game, he checked himself out. And you want that guy, that's who your future depends on if you're a Bengals fan. After all you've been through this year, it is wild to me, even including surviving themselves yesterday, that you might win next week, and I think you do. And you're going to have to – the 1 p.m.s are going to be crazy, right? Because they're going to put the Broncos and Chiefs at 1, and they're going to put all the other teams – or maybe they'll put Broncos and Chiefs in the 4 p.m. So that we get the best out of both matchups in the ones. That might be how it goes.
And it would be 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. in Denver.
Yeah.
If it was at 1.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a late game.
Yeah.
Probably going to be a late game. It probably goes Cincy and Pittsburgh at 1 p.m. Get the best out of them. Stack the Dolphins with them at 1 p.m. against the Jets. I don't know if it's out yet, but that is torturous to imagine finding a way to beat the Steelers and looking up in the fourth quarter at Rodgers throwing a pick or something, and the Dolphins are probably going to get in. And then both teams lose their shit at 4 o'clock when the Broncos win anyways. So, I mean, this is wild. This is just wild stuff. The Broncos-Bengals game was one of the most fun games of the season. One of the most fun games of the season. I mean, early on, it felt like Cincy could run away with it, but they just couldn't do the little things right. Like when you have a Jamar Chase drop in the end zone, like it's not your half. They come out in the second half. T. Higgins fumbled on a 4th and 4. They just weren't getting it done. They were keeping the points down. And then the eruption of points in action at the end of the game was nuts. And, Sean Payton, the thing that killed the damn Broncos, and Trent Green, I think, was on the call. He was right. Was it Harlan and Trent Green?
Yeah.
Perfect. I tried to explain to my kid yesterday how important it is to, like, when Harlan's on TV, to, like, appreciate the moment. He's the best. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And he went back to coloring. But Trent Green was right that the Chase Brown injury timeout was a big deal, right? Stop the clock, allowed Denver to have the time to throw that circus ball to Mims. But as for going for 2, which I thought for sure Sean Payton would have, listen, I understand the whole tie works in your favor thing. I'll give you that, whether I agree with it or not. The second possession of overtime, way, way, way too conservative against that defense, who I have to say, although they didn't get enough pressure all day, stood up late in that game, got some stops. I want to shout out Zach Allen, 4 sacks, one of my favorite players in the league. And he's one of those guys that if he weren't Zach Allen, he'd be a bona fide star. But people just decided that he's Zach Allen. He's a bona fide star. Bo Nix, he might be a star in this league. I thought he had some moments in that game late, the 67-yard touchdown, the circus throw at the end of the game, albeit without heavy pass rush on him throughout much of the night. But he really answered the bell and went toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow. Toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow. And you got to remember, and Joe Burrow, if they slide in the playoffs, if somebody wants to vote for him for MVP, because I have resigned to not giving a fuck about the award, because I can tell no matter who wins it, somebody's going to complain, and it doesn't change anything. These guys are all going to the Hall of Fame, probably. But Joe Burrow, if somebody wanted to vote for him, I wouldn't be mad at him. But you have to remember, he's got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Bo Nix is doing this with, Sutton, Mims, they've got a shot to be pretty good in Denver. But they want to slide in the playoffs right now. It's not about the future, and I totally get it. But the future's bright. And another thing is, they'll make more noise in the playoffs than some of these other teams. I think they pose a bigger threat to a team to lose a single game than do the Texans or the Steelers. And the other day I said, hey, I don't take the Steelers seriously in the playoffs. I saw I got aggregated by like Steelers Depot and some other people. I don't give a fuck. And if it offends you, I don't care either. Do I love the Steelers? Did I say 6 weeks ago I thought they looked really good? Yeah, but they don't anymore. Like, what do you want me to say? You trust that team to win more than one game in the playoffs? The one game they can win is going to Houston. If they win more, great. That'll be great for football. But I just don't see it the way they're playing right now. And so when I look at the Broncos with that defense, Riley Moss healthy, that's the only team that could do that to them. Like Higgins, come on. T. Higgins, here's the thing that's so impressive about him. A lot of receivers you could say, hey, he's playing with Jamar Chase. And you can say that. He's not always going to draw the best cornerback. But yesterday, they got a couple damn good corners there. He's not always going to draw the best corner, but he's not going to be – every ball is a 50-50 ball. He's a possession receiver. So all his catches are contested, you know, and that to me is even more impressive than a guy who, like Addison, who plays with Jefferson, and there's going to be voids because Jefferson is lined up on the field with him. And I'm not saying Addison's not great, but T. Higgins is number 2. He does a lot of his own work. And when you think about like Broncos fans who yesterday are like, well, he might be on my team next year, Cowboy Reed, hopefully. He's going to do work wherever he goes. Like, he's going to be a guy that really pays off. There's some guys that you're like, oh, he's playing with him. Nah, there's just 2 of those guys out there for Cincinnati. And they're very different, but they're both fucking dogs. And Higgins with the late hands, with the circus catches, with the clutch catches in the red zone, he's a nightmare for teams. A nightmare. So wherever he ends up, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Certainly felt like for Broncos fans, would it be worth it for you not to make the playoffs if I can guarantee you T. Higgins next year?
T. Higgins or Garrett Wilson, one of the 2.
I hope Garrett Wilson gets they let him go, man.
Yeah.
Like, I know that it's not going to happen, but what I'm saying is, like, if the Jets were a moral institution, they would let that young, talented man walk. They would just be like, hey, man, you don't have to deal with this shit. I saw earlier it was T. Higgins, speaking of his Instagram, and they said Sauce Gardner commented, pay the man. Somebody was like, tell that man to come to New York to play for the Jets. And he said, I am not telling him that, not in all caps. Can you imagine a worse place to be right now? A worse place to be when the players are like, I'm not even going to recruit. Like, why would I recruit somebody to ruin their life and come here? So, nothing else to say.
Bets in for tonight. What you got?
Bets in for tonight. I have I tied the Falcons into a teaser. They're catching 13.5. 2 of the 3 legs have already cleared. I gave out the Falcons plus 4.5. That line's moved down to 3.5. You could certainly buy to 4. And I've also got a money line parlay with the Commanders and the Lions. You know, try to roll some of that money into next week, starting off with a little walking around money. I think the Commanders win. I think it's close. I do. I think Michael Penix looks good. This could be my famous last words. He might look like shit tonight, but I think 2 rookies are going to be impressive tonight. And it's going to come down to who can run the football. If Atlanta can run the football, this game's going to be tight. If they can't run the football, I don't know. Sunday night on the road, rookie quarterback, that's what I worry about. If they can run the football, this might be a game. Anyways, yeah, I don't want to do that. A Bit of Life said, pretty even with Smitty or Higgins. Not sure if there's a wrong answer. I don't know either. They're very different players. We just don't need to compare everybody. I know you're not doing that, but, well, sort of. All right, y'all. Enjoy. Hey, tomorrow, 2:30, same time, same place. Not same time, 2:30. Live show. Be there. Y'all take care.